That's why this channel's here. Tell your friends. We're only about, 22 minutes into the show, and we've already annihilated the globe, proven how you need a flat Earth to measure it, justified how they've hoodwinked you into believing the horizon's a physical sphere edge with a donkey-dick bent horizon from a non-measurable geometric limitation at G in this diagram. We've explained it all. This is the cutting edge of flat Earth. Share the show. Make sure your friends know. If you're in any way inclined to promote the notion of flat Earth, you must be promoting this show.
Well, it's a little bit different because it's something you can go out and do yourself, right? You know, you can't go to space, so you have to kind of take that on faith. But up until January of 2020, I thought I could measure the physical blockage that we call I called the horizon.
Right, but you hadn't. You took it by faith.
No. He said, you can't measure anything from space. You can't go to space. But what you can measure, or what he was led to believe you could measure, was Earth curve. It's laid down in the maths. 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet will give you the geometric limitation marked with an X and labelled horizon. That's Earth curve. He thought you could measure it practically. Him, personally, not with a tape measure, but measure it.
No, I got that. But the fact that he hadn't done it and come to the truth earlier, he trusted people who said they did. So we're back to trust.
No, it had nothing to do with trust. I have worked with surveyors before, and when you look at the horizon as a baller, you think you are measuring a physical geometric obstruction to objects in the distance.
Did you do it?
Why are you hampering on this? It matters not. By your question, I can tell that you're segueing the main purpose of his point and trying to redirect it onto the point you made earlier, which I'm not going to repeat. But no, that's not where he's going.
What point is that?
It matters not if he did it or not. He's not taking it on trust. His point is that he, as a globe earther, looks out at the horizon and goes, I can measure that because what I can see is actually there and is actually Earth curve, and it's going to actually block things behind it.
Right, but he'd have to assume we're on the ball to even do that.
He said that, but it doesn't matter that at that point he might say, oh, well, others have done it, I haven't physically done it. That isn't the point.
No, I'm looking at it a totally different way, but I see what you're saying. So
good. That's it, yeah. So you could measure it until 1st of Jan 2020. There was a justifiable, reasonable man, John, who thought, I can measure the Earth as a sphere exactly as it's claimed to be measurable. We have debunked that, and that is the primary claim of Earth curve. There's a reason we do get hung up on the flat plane every day on this question. Why do we get hung up on any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon formerly known as Earth curve? Because that is the primary claim. Beyond space, which you can't visit, you've got a practical way claimed to be measurable to demonstrate to you as the individual that Earth's a sphere. And in the first instance, that's all we measured about. All we did day in, day out on Flat Earth Debate was have the Earth curve calculator shoved in our face. Look, here's the maths for how the horizon's blocking stuff. Let's see a picture. Let's compare it. Okay? So you're saying the horizon's blocking stuff in the distance and we're going to calculate how much it's blocking it by? All right, well, if the Earth was a sphere radius 3959 miles, then every distance to that horizon you're claiming blocks the view of this boat could be no more than 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, as your maths dictates. And if it isn't, then it's not Earth curve. You only have to show once that it's not a hill getting in the way, because hills that are physically blocking stuff, that are measurable as blocking stuff, don't move beyond the thing they're blocking the following day.
Not according to Rumpus.
He spent plenty of time arguing with me personally about how much of the Isle of Man was blocked by the physical geometry of Earth curve. So to come back 3 years later and say, oh, we said it was refracted, so not blocking the Isle of Man then? Well, okay. Well, that's a concession The fact that you need to lie about it and claim that you were always saying it was refracted when you were claiming it was blocking the bottom of the Isle of Man is absurd and an outright lie. But that's what Rumpus is, a liar. He has to be. He's on a sphere. Go on.
When he said always refracted it, he said it instead of the horizon for a reason. Because he was refracting the lighthouse with respect to the horizon.
I trimmed it out.
And then you called him on it.
Yeah,
and
I trimmed
he said, I've always refracted the horizon.
Precisely.
Which made him a liar.
Exactly. When I forced him into saying, I've always refracted the horizon, he was banned. Now, not immediately. I gave him 3 opportunities. I even trimmed it out and put it next to his lie. So it was as clear as it could possibly be with his claim followed by his lie 3 years later. And he, after hearing that and publishing that, still came back in and tripled down on his lie. So I said, you're never going to come back again. You know, the levels of deceit are too high for me to tolerate, I'm afraid. Get lost. You're never coming back.
And he came in ball busters and still triple and quadrupled down. So he's done.
Well, I came in and tried to poison the well, which we all tolerated. We let him have his little speech poisoning the well, telling the audience that we're all idiots. So when he'd finished his little poisoning the well, I said, well, you're a liar. Here's how. And he immediately started interrupting me. You know, great, as on Friday of last week, and I think I've published this on the second channel. Subscribe today to my second channel if you want to catch up with the Uncut and After shows. But I published exactly that, a description of a guy. Now, I published it as the spy who conned me, or this guy who conned me, right? I put it out with this guy doing exactly that, saying he wants me to go to a neutral platform. I'm like, I'm on a commercial channel. I make money from this. This is how I make my living. If you want to pay me, then different story. But then he gets into saying I've never been anywhere. I've not been to any other platforms. So I say, no, I have. I've been to blah, 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 blah. As soon as they're proven wrong, they want to be on a platform where they have control over me in such a manner that when I prove them wrong, they can shut me down immediately. Now I shut them down from interrupting me refuting their claims. And I'm called a scammer and a scumbag for having control of my show. Nathan and his mute button. It's like, what? No, I appreciate that when I refute your claim, you'd prefer that you do what Rumpus does. And just talk straight through it so an audience doesn't get to hear it. Yeah, that's the whole purpose of this being set up, by the way. If anybody wants to look back and listen to the discussions I've had literally with the opponents about why I'm setting up Flat Earth Debate, it's because I went out on the circuit and got muted everywhere I went. I was like, I'm just trying to put my rebuttal to them, and they just turn me right down or shut me down completely halfway through a sentence. Out on the circuit, doing the rounds where people think I'm stuck in an echo chamber. Like, why do you think this platform exists? Exists because Flat Earthers didn't get an opportunity when they were out on the circuit. I was one of them, going on other people's channels. You know, a few of them I say subscribe to. I went out on, I can't remember what the guy's name was, black guy with a channel that was very Christian. Started slagging off Flat Earthers, offered out the link to join. I joined, started handing him his ass, and he shouted me down, turned me off, muted me, and I was like, this is part of the course. This happens everywhere you go. Same when I went to Steve McClown. You know, same exact thing. He was like, oh, we'll have a 2-on-2 or a 4-on-4 or wherever it was arranged. It was all pre-arranged in email. And then you had a rotating door of about 25 ballers, one after the next, not letting us get a single word out. You're like, these people are scumbag liars. They'll turn you down, mute you, and then put a revolving door of 25 people when they've agreed to a 4-on-4. So you're just like, no, they're liars. So what am I going to do to combat this? Well, the only way to combat it is to do it yourself. Now, at the time, I had absolutely no knowledge how to debate the subject in any coherent way. So I shut the hell up and listened. But that's why this is here. So when scumbags come in and start telling me you've never been anywhere, you're too scared, you're a scared little boy, and calling me a cunt, you're like, no, let's shut this guy down. I have been somewhere. Check out this link. Here's Charles. On the clip, I've put it in. There's me debating Charles, asking him for R, and saying, you've claimed to your audience you don't need R. Basically, because he can't measure it anymore. That's what we've just been discussing. This is the point of this whole ramble. Charles says he doesn't need R because he can't measure it. I go in, and within 5 seconds of any claim he makes ever, he will require R, and I proved that to him, to his audience, that he's a lying shit. He does absolutely require R. His justification when I hold him to task with his absolute requirement for R was, well, that's just an estimate, in a very high-pitched voice. I'm like, no, that's your concession, mate. You've said you don't need it. Now you're using an estimate. No, you need a measurement. Yeah, that's what I'm here to tell you and your audience. While all of his audience are super chatting him, saying, he's telling Nathan that we don't need it. Yeah, now I've got him over a barrel with all you twats super chatting Charles, giving him money on the basis that he doesn't need R. And then the flat earther comes along and goes, yeah, you damn well do, and I'll prove it, you lying shit. On your own channel to your own audience, while they all back you up with super chats about how you don't need it, until I force you to need it, because every claim needs it. That's what I did when I was out on the circuit recently, away from my mute button. Oh, what happened when I held Charles to task on his absolute stone-cold requirement for R? He muted me and attempted to try and take charge of the questioning process for his R that he needed. All of which got pointed out, to a degree, because he muted me when he lost. Didn't like the fact that I was pointing out his lie about not needing R when it's an absolute requirement. So I got muted. Not because I was rumpusing, because I was annihilating. Again, another reason why I'm here, putting my arguments after listening to people's opinions, after they get their little diatribe out, not when they want to repeat it through the rebuttal. But that's why this channel's here. Tell your friends. We're only about, 22 minutes into the show, and we've already annihilated the globe, proven how you need a flat earth to measure it, justified how they've hoodwinked you into believing the horizon's a physical sphere edge with a donkey dick bent horizon from a non-measurable geometric limitation at G in this diagram. We've explained it all. This is the cutting edge of flat earth. Share the show. Make sure your friends know. If you're in any way inclined to promote the notion of flat earth, you must be promoting this show. Because as far as I am concerned, it is the only one that actually does that. That and the show's connected, notwithstanding everybody on the panel who also simultaneously do that. But within this little clique that is Flat Earth Debate, we are the only people who do that. Actually debunk the claim that we're on a sphere and point out how, in the case of the diagram that just whizzed by, Al-Biruni measured a flat plane to get there. How there's a geometric limitation at 1.2 times the square root of the observer site in feet. Not the straw man they say it is when it's their own claim. We'll get them to eat their own hat when it comes to them asserting that, because they'll be telling us how non-geometric their horizons are, or how it only exists in the maths when we welcome them to Flat Earth here. That is what we do. Tell your friends, share the show. But we are going to move on. So any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?